If you can hear this, you are not alone. This is the resistance. You are not alone. This is the resistance. You are not alone. This is the resistance.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kriston T. Harris.
Welcome to another edition of the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris, and we have another great action-packed show for you with information to feed your brain so you can grow ideas. And we love Fridays around here because we get into topics and things that are fringe. It's Fringe and Freaky Friday on the Rundown Live. Yes, all right. I like my little echo effect there with Rachel Ray was jealous of on Tuesday, but, we're live here on KGRA-DB, band.video, rundownlive.com, Rumble, Facebook, TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, anywhere where podcasts are found. So thank you guys for supporting us. We are 100% listener supported. So check out the Rundown Live, which, by the way, we are having a brand new revamp of our website. We have a new website that will be coming out soon, brand new Rundown Live website. But in the meantime, if you want to support us and dig through our website, you can. There's also a way to donate. If you go to our link tree, there's a little thing that says, you can donate via PayPal, Venmo, all that other fun stuff that's available for you guys to do and support this broadcast. But now that we're done with that, there's a lot going on in the news. And I want to mention, today I plan on opening phone lines. So if you guys want to call in, we're going to go ahead and put that banner up there. The phone number here for open lines today, which we haven't done in a month, 1-855-472-5483, 1-855-472-5483 will be the number here on today's broadcast. And there's a lot happening in the world. There's a lot of strange things that we can talk about, from paranormal to science to space to unexplained phenomenon. We'll be getting into everything today. What I want to hear from you guys when you guys call in is, what's a bizarre experience that you've had? Maybe it's, you describe it as paranormal or time lapse or, something you've seen that's unexplainable. We'd like to hear from you. Not only that, maybe it's science. Maybe it's something in science that you've seen, like cloned animals. And we're going to be getting into like dream walking and all these interesting things that tie into science that they're now saying that they can do. That being said, we're going to start out with this question. Do you have any pets, Don? Do you have any like animals, fur babies in your life?
I did. I had a cat a few years ago and she passed away, and I just haven't gotten another animal since then.
It's a very traumatizing experience to lose your beloved pet, because that pet, it spends every moment with you. It never fights back. It does. Well, I mean, for the most part, they might, like, cats tend to pounce, and, maybe dogs tend to play a little bit, but they don't tend to be violent. They're companions, right? We love them, and they take and listen to you no matter what it is. They seem to be a thing that a lot of people love and adore. So my question to you is, if you could preserve that pet, would you? And by that I mean, would you clone your animal?
That is a question that hinges on a lot of different ethics and ideas, and I'm not sure if I would, honestly, because like you can clone it and like cellularly, like on the cellular level, it would be the same, but it wouldn't be the same creatures. Like you could clone me, right? But it wouldn't have my brain, my soul, my personality and characteristics, or anybody. You can clone anybody. So it would be the same, but it wouldn't be the same. So I'm not sure if I could do that.
Yeah, I had a cat, lion. We'll call him a tiger. His name was Pookie. Yeah, ferocious name there, Pookie the lion. Rah! And he was a great cat. He lived 20-something years, unvaccinated kitty. Great time. Loved him. He passed. It was, obviously the first time I've ever had an animal that I was close to pass. It was a very emotional experience. But people are now cloning their pets. This is like a new rage. This is something, it's not something that is a new idea. It's something that people are now being able to bask in and be like, yeah, I can afford that. I love my cat. I love my dog. So guess what? We're going to clone the pets. And here it is right here. I sold my prized Warhol and paid $50,000 to clone my dog. And this man says it was worth it.
That's a wild story. First of all, I'm not quite sure what a Warhol is. Like, is that a dog breed?
It looks like a dog breed to me. It says 15 years ago, when hairstylist Roberto Novo met a French bulldog puppy at the pet shop next to his saloon, it was love at first snuggle. He started to lick my face, and it was like I was saying to me, "You're the one," Novo 62 recalled. He named the pup Machito, and they became inseparable. So much so that as the dog aged, Novo considered cloning him. When Machito was 12, he paid $1,600 to have the beloved companion's DNA harvested and stored with the Texas-based animal cloning company ViaGen Pets. 2 years later, in early 2020, Machito died unexpectedly at the age of 14, after suffering a bad reaction from a rabies shot. Well, see, he got that vaccine, death by owner. Novo, who is based in the West Village, was devastated. He decided to move forward with cloning the beloved dog, even though the cost was $50,000, wasn't something he could easily afford. Quote, "It was an amount I didn't have in the bank account," Novo said, but he would do anything to get his little buddy back. 14 years with him wasn't enough. He claims. So he sold a prized Andy Warhol butterfly silk screen. There we go. Now we got the Warhol. He has purchased from a client and Warhol friend years prior. Quote, "While I loved looking at something beautiful on my wall, it wasn't going to give me unconditional love," he said. Once an endeavor only undertaken by wealthy eccentrics, pet cloning has entered the mainstream. People are more modest, means are hawking valuables and living frugally to be able to afford the procedure, which typically costs around $50K for a dog. ViaGen Pets, which we're going to look up this website in a second, which is the only company of its kind in the United States. There's a pet cloning company in South Korea called Soam, Soom, has seen business double in the last 5 years and now has a waiting list. It also recently started offering financing to make procedures more accessible. You can get a loan to clone your cat and dog now. Of course you can. But would you do it? Why is it that people feel the need to clone their animals? And this isn't just one story in of itself. This one dude is cloning his dogs. I sold my Warhol prized possession. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here it is in the U.S. Sun, right? Cloning the paws. That's right. There's a video. U.S. company that clones cats and dogs has a huge waiting list after interest spiked during COVID. What was it about COVID that got people to want to clone their animals?
I think it was the fact of the lockdowns, the isolation. When you're stuck in the house for what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, or longer than that. I mean, I was stuck in the house for like what, 10 weeks almost, because right when the lockdowns started, I had actually, just before that, I had injured my knee. I dislocated my kneecap, and so it was difficult to walk for a while anyway. Then when I could start to walk again, then the lockdown started. I was like, oh, great, that's perfect timing. But yeah, I think, just being isolated like that, pretty much the only companionship you have is your pet. So it's understandable in a way that that sort of interest would spike during that time period.
Well, so we desensitizing ourselves? Like, what I mean by that is, how long till somebody's like, yeah, bro, let's clone a human being?
I'm pretty sure some people have already suggested that, because contrary to popular belief, cloning has been around for a while. There's actually a piece, we can check out that website. But after that, there's an article I have pulled up actually talking about Dolly the sheep was the first cloned sheep, at least, maybe not the first cloned animal, but all the way back in 1997.
Yeah. It's something that isn't necessarily new, but it is becoming available and more affordable. Here it is in the BBC. This is within the last couple of weeks. The people cloning their pet. And it says, from duplicate dogs to modern day mammoths, cloning has come a long way since Dolly the sheep took her first tentative steps. This is kind of what you've been talking about. On July 5th of 1996, a sheep was born who could go on to inspire entire industries, provide scientists with a new way of helping endangered species, and change medical science in a way that were barely conceivable at the time. But this was no ordinary sheep. Her very entry to the world was groundbreaking. She was cloned using cells taken from another sheep's mammary gland as part of an experiment conducted by Rosalind Institute in Midlothian, Scotland. They named her Dolly after the singer Dolly Parton. Because you gotta love Dolly Parton. She's got the former prostitute look to her. She sings country music. She's got the big tracts of land. Everyone loves Dolly Parton. Like, who doesn't love Dolly?
Yeah, Dolly Parton is awesome. I've been to Dolly World in Tennessee. It's a cool place to go to.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my MXPX 10 album set coming from Tennessee. It's still not here. They came out this vinyl box set, because we don't talk music too often in the show. And it's like their first 10 albums all on vinyl. It's hard to get. And I got it for a steal, a little bit above market price when they're going for $700. I got it for, I'm not going to talk about what I spend on stuff. Anyways.
That's awesome, bro. Hell yeah.
Yeah, dude, I love MXPX. It's one of my great favorite bands. But animals, right? Mm-hmm. People cloning their pets. There's a company that's doing it. Let's look up this company. What was it called? Let's go back here. The company's name was, Machito Viagen Pets. That's what it's called. Let's take a look at, see the website is. But the question is at what point of all of a sudden, maybe you had that beautiful wife and she passes and you're like, yeah, let's go clone Dolly Parton. Yeah, here it is. Viagen Pets. This is their website, and it seems extensive. Look at that. Kismet in Georgia, the original genetic donor, and then the genetic twin, a clone of Georgia. And they look almost identical. They don't look quite the same, but you can see here it is. It says lasting love, bro. You can have lasting love and have your pet cloned. The worldwide leader in cloning the animals we love is, Viagen Pets. And somebody made money. Meet the world's first cloned black-footed ferret. Let's meet him. Oh, that's just a picture. Oh, no, here he is.
I've always thought ferrets are adorable.
Yeah, they are. Ferrets are pretty cute. Scientists have successfully cloned a wild black-footed ferret that died more than 30 years ago. According to the statement from the United States Fish and Wildlife Services, the young clone, born December 10th, 2020, named Elizabeth Ann, is the first ever native endangered species to be cloned in the United States, reports Douglas Main for National Geographic. So I guess the other question, what are the positives of cloning? We can take endangered species and recreate them.
Right. I was just about to say that, let's expand on that idea, because like there's the idea of cloning. Of course, cloning your pets is going mainstream. We've talked about cloned meat on the show quite a bit. But there's also the possibility, like this is talking about, it cloned an endangered species. So what are the possibilities of actually preserving endangered species? And then on the flip side of that, what are some of the more sketchy aspects of it? We've talked about scientists that want to bring back mammoths. I'm
Yes.
sure they're using similar technology to clone mammoth DNA to try to do that. At what point is it too far? Do you get to that moment where you're like, your scientists were so focused on whether or not they could, they didn't think of whether or not they should? I think this is from The Fly.
Right. Well,
Whatever movie that's
The
from.
Fly was some dude who's like, I'm going to teleport. He was trying to develop teleportation.
Yeah.
And he was like the first human insect hybrid. Like we talk
Yeah.
about animal human hybrids. You better believe somebody's like working on animal insect hybrids. It'll be like, we'll make a human fly. And he's like a big fan of the movie. And he's like a mad scientist in a basement of some mega corporation somewhere concocting a human fly. And, and then he's going to inject himself with it. But let's see, our values and mission. Let's see what it has to say about Viagen. Viagen Pets is committed to the health and well-being of each and every dog and cat whom we work with. The commitment is a foundation of every effort we make. Our team includes leading scientists and believe that moving the promising and exciting area of animal genetic research forward will benefit all animals. So, okay, I want to ask you something, Don. Like, how far are we from this just being Jurassic Park? Yeah, I want to make a dragon. And it's like, yeah, dragon. See, we're bringing back dragons. They weren't extinct. We have the DNA. We just edited the DNA and CRISPR gene editing, and we are making dragons. Jurassic Park is like one step closer. They could probably attempt to create a Jurassic Park with artificial animals that are made. And this, again, we just had 322, stems into the Skull and Bones and Adam Weishaupt utopian agenda that you too can be as if you are God and become as if they are gods because they have eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, that's the other big ethical question about everything. It's like, at what point does humanity cross that line as to whether or not we should be like artificially creating life like that?
Here it says, for which animals does Viagen Pets currently provide genetic preservation for? So it says only dogs and cats at the time. How long does it take you to get your clone pet? How long do you think it'd take to get your clone pet?
Hell, I don't know. That process could take a few weeks to a few months, I would think.
Yeah, Viagen Pets counselor will be able to provide you with feedback regarding your genetic preservation process in less than 4 weeks from submission of your sample. GP cell growth timelines can vary, but Viagen Pets will keep you informed along the way. The cloning process requires the same gestation, 60 to 65 days, and nursing process, 56 days, as any pet breeding technique. Does that mean that they like grow them? Like, how is this done? Do they have like artificial wombs that they have these animals in?
I don't know, man. I mean, that's what I would think. Like they have some sort of womb, or like maybe some sort of pod. I'm not really sure, honestly.
They're like, yeah, my pet has just died unexpectedly. What should I do to start the process of genetic preservation or cloning? It says, well, the first thing you can do is call 1-888-876-6104 for a loan. No, I'm just kidding. But my pet has just died. It says, in order to initiate a successful genetic preservation or cloning process, timing and proper procedures are critical if your pet has just passed away. And it says, please call the number right away to speak to Viagen Pets counselor for specific information and instructions. Refrigeration and not freezing your dog or cat tissue sample immediately after death is the first critical step. So put them in the fridge, right next to the burgers and the brats, and hey, there's Spooky. Yeah, we're got to clone them, put them in the fridge. So first thing happens when your dog does, you get it in, put it in the fridge. I'm sure you put it in some kind of bag or something like that. But is there an ideal pet age? How do I order pet genetic preservation and cloning? Does genetic preservation or cloning involve genetic modification? Ooh, there's a good question. And it says, no. Viagen Pets genetic preservation and cloning services do not involve changing or altering the pet's genetic material in any way. Maybe the pet comes out as like a horror dog. Yeah, what happens if your dog doesn't come out the same? Like, how could this go wrong?
Right. That's another thing I was thinking about. And it kind of ties into what I was saying earlier. Like it could be cellularly the same, but still not the same. And like there's always that like margin of error that you have to be careful of because you know, like you said, there could be mutations or the dog could just like something could come out, maybe not even a mutation, but just like, you know, mentally, you know, wired differently because it has a different brain. It might have the same cells, but it has, you know, different thoughts and different behaviors. And, you know, maybe your dog was all sweet and loving and the clone you get, he might be violent. You know, who knows?
Well, and that's where we go to this topic today in history, right?
Mhm.
U.S. President Bill Clinton bans human cloning research. But I have to ask, is it really banned? Or is
I
it
don't think
still
so.
going on?
Because I mean, you know, these people, they're professional liars. I mean, we cover that all day, every day. Everybody with a, you know, half a brain cell knows that. That's literally what they do their entire careers. They're professional liars, and you know, they're doing a lot of sketchy behind the scenes stuff. Anyone who's ever studied, you know, anything clandestine or covert, you know that they're always working on something really weird behind the scenes, and so. Just because he signed a bill to say we're not going to do this anymore, I mean, they've signed plenty of bills that said we're not going to do things anymore, and they still did them. I mean, first
Like everything.
yeah, literally like
We stopped
everything.
bills for stop spying on American citizens. Hello, NSA.
Yeah, we signed bills to stop funding terrorism. Oh wait, Operation Timber Sycamore. Well, what's this group? They're called ISIS.
What's that? What's ISIS? I thought that's a goddess of Egypt. You know, here, this is an interesting thing from NPR. Human clones, where's baby Eve? A look at claims, past, present, and future. Did you know that somebody claimed that they were cloned baby from way back? Several fertility doctors around the world maintained they are planning to clone a human baby. For a time late last year, it seemed possible that human cloning had been accomplished. On December 27th, guess what year? 2002, not 2022, but 2002. We're talking 20 years, over 20 years ago. Bridget Bossier, or
2002,
Bosslier.
20 years ago makes me feel so damn old.
Yeah. Well, that's like this technology is at least 20 years old, but we're
Right.
going to find out it's much older here. Held a press conference in Florida announcing the birth of the first human clone called Eve. Whatever happened to Eve? Was Eve real? Did they kill Eve? Is Eve considered a person? Like, these are all like, that's it. Like, once we start cloning pets and we become desensitized to it, are human clones that far away?
I mean, probably not. You know, once we start, you know, once you go down that rabbit hole, the possibilities are endless, and that's you know, again, the ethical side of it. That's what the public needs to be, you know, informed about this topic. Much like a lot of the things we talk about, you know, it's important for the public to be aware of, just to simply, you know, figure out kind of where, as far as like a mass consensus goes, where we draw the line on. Okay, this is maybe a little too far.
Right. So here they're saying there was no proof, just the claim and the announcement. And let's see if there's been any updates on this. But yeah, so what happens once we start doing this? Because this is where we go to designer babies. This is where we start getting into this, you know, creepy goth chick who wants a little Baphomet baby or Elvish baby with the ears, or you know, they want, you know, somebody who's a farmer and loves horses wants a, you know, chimera of a centaur, you know, as long as he's not reverse centaur. Reverse centaur would be a little weird with the horse head and then the man body versus man head. And I don't know, maybe you can have both.
BoJack Horseman.
One of each. Yeah, welcome to the Pony Show. Like, here it is. Dr. Bridget Bossier is a scientific director at Clonaid, a company devoted to creating human clones. I didn't know that there was a company dedicated to this. But Dr. Bridget, she was a director of Clonaid, the first human cloning company. Chats with MSNBC about her reasons for supporting human cloning. Let's see why you should support human cloning. Here it is. She says, Dr. Bridget Bossier directed Clonaid, the first human cloning company. Chats with MSNBC about her reasons for supporting human cloning. Dr. Bossier, I think is her name, addressed the room from Canada on the phone through a typist. Chad producer Will Fema moderates. Welcome, Dr. B. We'll call her Bossier. Thank you, she says. I wonder who exactly was being cloned, whose genetic material was being used, and I wonder if it was Rael himself. Bridget Bosselier, I think Rael, Rael, has no wish for that. I never talked about that with him, but he has 2 children, and I don't think he wants another one. If not him, who? How do you make the selection? Quote, I don't select anybody because who am I to select? I have a lot of requests. There are regulations telling me that certain people shouldn't be cloned. Okay, first of all, do we have the right to be cloned? Like, that's like, we're saying, like, why should we clone people? And here's like, we have the right to be cloned. And some people can be cloned and some people can't. So when somebody tells me I can't be cloned, I immediately go, I want to be cloned because that's my right. What are you telling me? Only certain people can be cloned and others shouldn't be cloned. Like, who can't be cloned?
Right. It's that, bucking back against authority. You tell me not to do something, it makes me want to do it even more.
Right.
And so I think it does come down to, like, yes, it is your individual right to be cloned if you want to clone yourself. But then another one of those ethical questions pops up. Does your clone have those same rights? Does it have autonomy, or do you own it?
Like, I guess if you're a total narcissist and you want to marry yourself, there are regulations telling me that certain people should not be cloned, and I will respect that. I should be more clear. If someone has a daughter who is dying and wants a clone to have a sister twin, I always remind them that the clone may have the disease as well, because that can be genetic. So would being disease-free be a qualification for cloning? And Bridget says, I don't think we should clone people with diseases, but I don't think there is more qualification from one person to another. What I realize is that most people who want cloning are eager, infertile couples or people who are living alone who want a baby but don't want to mix genes with someone else. That's basically the people who call me. If someone were to say, quote, I'd like to be cloned and I don't want to give you an explanation, as long as he's cloning himself, why should I ask him for justification? If he wants to mix his genes with the partner of his choice, that's fine. If he doesn't want to mix his genes with another, then I think that should be a fundamental choice too. Naturally, you shouldn't clone yourself too much because you don't want to impose too much on your own government. But other than that, you should be able to do what you want with your own genes. So, I mean, do we have a right? Like, so if people want to clone themselves as a libertarian, I should be saying, heck yeah. But the problem is when government's like, Clone Wars, let's do it.
Execute
we don't need to have real humans. We'll just clone a bunch of soldiers and make them super soldiers. And we're going to have some ginormous like military complex with a bunch of artificial embryos with future soldiers there that will do and live for one thing only: war.
Yeah.
I mean, if you sign away for that, you're like, yeah, use my DNA, give me money. I don't care if there's 50,000 soldiers of me wreaking havoc across the world. They're going to go to Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and be like, and Jean-Claude Van Damme, can we have your DNA? We need to make clones of you. Imagine like a clone army of like Chuck Norris's, like coming at you to like, You can have like cloned Bruce, like we could have Bruce Lee, and we could have Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris all over again.
Right.
Yeah,
that is pretty wild. But we have came across our first commercial break here.
Holy cow, that went fast.
Yes, it did.
All right, guys, before we get into this too much more, we've got to let you know the phone lines here are open. Would you clone yourself? Would you clone your pets? Would you clone anything? I mean, we do clone some things, but they're not human or living items. That being said, we'd like to hear from you. 1-855-472-5483 is the number at the Rundown Live. You can see it on the bottom. We have it there for you guys to call in. We'll be back after these messages from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Rundown Live.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris. We're live on KGRA-DB, Band.video, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Speaker, Stitcher, Rumble, you name it, Rockfin. We're all over the place. YouTube, still, like, they keep removing flags and flagging us and removing flags. Tag your friends. Drop comments in the chat. It helps us beat the evil algorithms. Like, share, and love. If you guys want to call into today's broadcast, it's 1-855-472 5483 is the number to the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. We'll be taking your calls if you guys feel like you want to call in. We've been talking about cloned humans, cloned animals, amongst other things. Hey, we got Popeye. Actually, I tried to call Sean today because I wanted to talk to him about the Titanic, because there's like this new article out there about the 7 myths of the Titanic, and we're going to get into that. What's up, Bobby? How you doing? Thanks for getting in the chat. Steven, how you doing? If you're in the chat, get in there, drop some comments. We're live on Rumble. We're live on Rockfin. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We should be live on other platforms, but we've also added BitChute. BitChute is getting hundreds of views. Rumble is getting hundreds, sometimes thousands of views per episode. And mostly KGRA-DB members only app is a great place to be. And Band.video, thousands of views, sometimes tens of thousands, almost close. We have yet to break 100,000 views on one video on Band.video, but we've been hitting 40 and 60,000 videos on our videos quite often. So support us. Check us out there. We need your help and support. Donate. Go to the rundownlive.com, drop in the link tree, and we'll go there. But before we move on from this topic, because there's a lot of great, crazy topics we have on Freaky Friday. As where we cover and talk about things that aren't normally politically correct, or never the stuff we talk about is politically correct, or I would say the overall accepted mainstream narrative. But we cover a lot of the more fringe, paranormal, other like bizarre science news, like we're talking about cloning right now. But there's an interesting question that was posed here in 2003 to the Human Cloning Agency with Bridget Bosslier. It said, question was from Martha the Conservative. Thank you for taking my question. Do you think that we should have a national dialogue into philosophic, ethical, or moral aspects of human cloning, or do you feel that we should allow science to take its course? And Bridget responded, quote, I think we should have a national debate. And I've been pushing for that to happen for the last 4 years. What's terrible is that we talk about, quote, how soon can we prohibit and how can we prohibit? It's not an open dialogue about possibilities. I think any scientific advance has the worst and the best inside of it. You can do very good things and very bad things depending on the conscience of the user. For that reason, I think regulations are good, but prohibition is bad. That's why I would think that we should have regulations that you shouldn't use someone else's genes. You can use your own, but shouldn't play with those of others. And you shouldn't clone yourself in the hundreds of thousands. Let's have hundreds of thousands of Kristan T. Heron. Bring back Jordan Maxwell.
Man.
Other than that, why should we be afraid of a baby who is born and raised in love, even if it comes from a different environment? No, Jordan Maxwell would never like that. By the way, for those that don't know, the late, great Jordan Maxwell, friend of mine and of this program, we were going to do a show called The Secret Teachings that was supposed to start in January. But due to health complications, Jordan Maxwell has passed on yesterday, or 2 days ago now, for those that don't know. But cloning, right? Like hundreds of thousands of yourself. So what if we wanted can we get a bonus me just for organ transplants? Like, let's say you're having liver failure or kidney failure and your body would have 100% less likely ability to reject organ donations. Can we just have clones for organ harvesting, like backup Kristans and backup Don By Jr.?
Right. I mean, I certainly think that's a possibility because we're kind of already not that necessarily there, but we're on the precipice there because aren't they already maybe not cloning, but creating artificial organs, human organs inside of
pigs, llamas and whatever.
Yeah, inside pigs and sheep. And so maybe it's the same process. I'm not sure, but it definitely seems it's within that ballpark.
Yeah, it's wild. Katie Sue Johnson says, great show today, guys. And we have Popeye here. He said, here's a good question. What if they clone human politician? Real person doesn't do what you want, clone them and replace them with maybe there's clones of Joe Biden. We get the debating Joe Biden. They're like, clone one, Joe Biden, go, let him out of the jail, give him some corned beef hash. All right, let him out there to do his thing. And competent Joe Biden comes out, does his debate against whoever his next challenger is, and then they go back to all right, bring back the real Joe Biden. We're gonna verbal disaster central, every other word doesn't make sense,
No kidding. That's kind of where we get into the more conspiratorial side of things. Is of course in the really fringe, conspiracy sections, we've heard for years this celebrity's a clone, they're not the real one. I mean, dude, there are, I'm sure you've heard of it. You've had to have heard of it. There are plenty of conspiracies out there. It's Eminem's not really the real Eminem. He's
that's a real thing. Is that why his song? Well, the real
people believe it.
Stand up.
People believe it. There's a thing out there. I mean, I don't, but I've heard of I've heard the claim going around in the more weirder conspiracy communities, Eminem's a clone, Britney Spears a clone, they're all Illuminati clones. It's just really wacky stuff, but people believe that stuff, man.
Do you think Baby Eve clone is still hanging out? She's 22, 23, going to college somewhere. It says Baby Eve clone in Israel, company chief claims. And that was in 2003. So she would be 19 right now if Baby Eve was still alive. The group announced that the first clone baby was named Baby Eve. That's all over in the news when you pull it up. Here's Irish Times, first picture of clone baby published. Let's pull it up. Let's see what a clone baby looks like. Let's see. Does it have 3 eyes and 6 legs? And, come on. It says, here's the Irish Times, first picture of clone baby published. A company claiming to have created the world's first clone babies has published a picture of one of the clones for the first time. And there's no picture. Of course. All right. Thanks, Irish Times, for your mega fail. A fourth was, holy cow. Okay, hold on. There's some interesting information. Let's see if Clonaid is still around, by the way. Clonaid said the photograph on its website of an infant in its incubator showed the third of 5 babies supposedly cloned since December. What? They cloned 5 babies? The company has so far refused to submit any of the so-called clones for DNA testing, leading most scientists to dismiss its claims. Yeah, just show us babies in the crib. Those aren't real clone babies. Do you get what I'm saying? They're like, oh, it can't be done, but somebody is doing it, and they're denying it. But Clonaid president, Miss Bridget Bosslier, we should ask her to come on the show if she's still alive, said proof would be providing in the next few days that the baby, alleged born in Japan, was cloned. Clonaid is linked to a sect that claims humans were created by aliens. Okay, I'm on board. It says the 5 babies it claims to have cloned are all healthy. Eve, the first, was allegedly born to U.S. parents on December 26th. Oh, look at it, Eve. They were aiming for December 25th. You know why December 25th? That's the cult holiday of Horus and like Nimrod, and like I'm telling you, it's the Mystery Babylon cult there. Eve.
It's interesting how the stuff like, because like they believe we're descended from aliens. It's interesting how the stuff like ties in, like inadvertently, like unintentionally ties into a lot of the other stuff we're going to talk about later, because we got a bunch of UFO stories to go over later too.
Right. A second clone baby girl was reportedly born to a Dutch lesbian on January 3rd. A third clone, a boy, was allegedly born in Japan later in January. A fourth was born to Saudi Arabian parents on January 27th. Clonaid said the 5th on February 4th. The 5 happy couples of the first generation are now building an association in defense of their rights once they decide to go public, the company said on their website. Oh, clone babies are here. What was Alex Jones doing in 2003? He's like, they're cloning the babies. You know,
I follow this page on Twitter called Alex Jones Was Right, and I swear to God, like it's every day. It's like check.
Yeah, there's no updates on Clonaid. Here's a Wikipedia ultra leftist. You know, when did Wikipedia turn into a leftist rag? Like
whenever it got co-opted by the establishment to basically be a mouthpiece for the ruling class.
Wikipedia comes out of the Pentagon, and I'm just saying. Clonaid is an American-based human cloning organization registered in a company in the Bahamas, founded in 1997. Clonaid's chief executive, Bazia, claimed the baby clone named Eve was born. Media coverage of the claim sparked serious criticism and ethical debate that lasted more than a year. Florida attorney Bernard Siegel tried to appoint a special guardian for Eve and threatened to sue Clonaid because he was afraid that the child might be treated like a lab rat. Okay, I could see that concern. Siegel, who has heard that the company's actual name was not Clonaid, decided that Clonaid project was a sham. Bioethicist Clara Alto condemned the Clonaid for premature human experimentation and noted that the high incidence of malformations of thousands of fetal deaths in animal cloning. Oh, by the way, it's okay to use experimental vaccination, though, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
We can.
How we've gone from this to that is insane.
Well, now it's just okay. Now they're just like, yeah, take this this genetically engineered alleged clone of baby Eve. Responses by politicians and ethicists, requests for temporary guardian, requests for DNA verification, claims of further human clones. The day after Bosslier made her announcement, she added that 4 more human clones were to be born within a few weeks. Bosslier claimed that Clonaid had a list of couples who were ready to have clone babies. Geez. And the last update I see here, in September of 2018, rapper Kid Buu claimed he was a human clone produced by Clonaid. However, this commonly perceived as publicity stunt. Who is Kid Buu?
I don't know. I mean, I like rap music, but I have no idea.
33, so he's not in the right age range. Because the organization started in 97.
Yeah.
And he claims to have been born in 1988. So obviously his fake claim, but interesting.
Indeed it is.
Check this out. Besides offering cloning services, Clonaid has developed one product, an embryonic cell fusion device called RMX 2010. Clonaid, a human cloning firm, has established an affiliate company in Korea. Participants at International Bio Expo in Japan said Thursday. Participants and foreign media who attended the first biotechnology exposition in Tokyo said that the Clonaid's vice president, Thomas Kainzik, claimed that the Biofusion Tech Inc., a South Korean company owned by Clonade had developed an embryonic cell fusion system. I don't know what that does, but it sounds pretty interesting. But yeah, no real updates to anything other than, 2004, this lady completely fell off the face of the planet.
Wow, that's interesting.
Like, let's take a look and see what she's up to now. Isn't this crazy, bro? We went from cloning dogs to finding out that they already started cloning humans. I thought that was like, no one's really done that, but we're talking 20 years ago. They already allegedly were cloning people.
Yeah, and this is a private corporation. Again, I bring it up all the time. Anything that's already out in the public or that's publicly being done in the private sector has already been done in very secret labs, probably underneath the Pentagon, underneath Area 51, underneath the Raven Rock facility, or any of these other like underground bases, or just not even underground, just secret bases. Like anything that's happening in the public mainstream private sector was already being done by the military long before that. So
Dr. Bridget Bosslier is still alive, allegedly, according to Wikipedia.
Interesting.
Yep. She's 65 years old. We should try to reach out to see if we can get her on and be like, where's Eve now? Where is she? We want her on the show. Wouldn't it be cool to be the first person to interview a clone baby?
Oh, yeah.
First question, do you not feel authentic? I know that's kind of me. But what would you ask a clone baby? Like,
I don't even know, honestly. I mean, there's so many questions that really come about it. It's, it's like, do you feel different from? I
don't know. What was the first movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger about clones? It wasn't. That was it The Seventh Day, where they kept cloning bodies, and the bad guy kept coming back, but he had to wait for the clone to come out to fight it again and again.
I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, so I the only movie of his that I'm actually familiar with is The Terminator. I've only seen the first one.
Get into the shopper, get down, Detective John Kimball. Yeah, but it's just weird. Like the idea of the cloning, we got to look into this. I'm kind of curious to where Eve is, what's going on. Obviously Clinton banned human, clones. San Diego zoo scientists. Here's another story. Real quick, while we're going to blast through some of these to get to the next topic here. San Diego zoo scientists revive cells from 40-year-old deep freeze to clone endangered horse. So people, they're talking about doing it for endangered species.
Didn't we have a story about the Tasmanian tiger recently?
Yeah, we did, where they're talking about the Tasmanian tiger and doing that. Oh, did you hear this one? The latest Russia scare that's kind of deals with like super tech.
What is it?
It is that Vladimir Putin is going to unleash the invisible drone. I'm not even making this up. Here it is. Putin may unleash nightmare war toys like invisible drones, robot tanks, and attack dogs. Like this is like Transformers. It's like Autobots transformed, and like, okay, fight the Decepticons, fight the Ruskies, the evil Russians, and Vladimir Putin has a vast array of terrifying weapons at his disposal that he could use in Ukraine, including alleged invisible T-14 robot super tanks. What? They have invisible. We're Googling this right now.
Because I've never heard of that.
It's a legit news site. Like it's a UK tabloid. And if you don't understand, UK tabloids are different than American tabloids.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've never heard of that. That's
real. Here it is. This is from the US Sun. Killing machine, Russia developing swarms of invisible robo tanks that could destroy entire cities in minutes.
Now, what do they mean by invisible? Because if that's what's pictured, it looks pretty damn visible to me.
Yeah, it does look pretty visible, doesn't it? Maybe let's see here. It says that military experts are concerned. Professor of Artificial Intelligence and Robotics at Sheffield University, Noel Sharkey, says the T-14 is currently operated by remote control by Russian scientists and are rushing to make fully autonomous. Professor Sharkey has campaigned for more than 10 years to ban killer robots, which I agree. Killer robots are trash.
Yeah, horrible idea.
Right. Let's see where we got the invisible. Oh, I spell inconceivable. Invisible. All right. What do we got here? We got that's the only mention of invisible. Uh, invisible robots, and they don't explain or go into detail what invisible. The tank is reportable invisible to detection. So I'm guessing you can see it, but you
Okay.
can't detect it.
Okay, that's what they mean. Yeah, it can't be picked
Undetectable.
up.
They're probably jamming signal jam.
Yeah. That's a clickbait title, man. That's a hell of a clickbait title. Just, oh, it's invisible.
I'm disappointed. I'm
Yeah.
disappointed in my invisible. But you never know. Is there cloaking? I mean, what kind of cloaking technology is there out there? We've seen things where they talked about cloaking planes by having essentially mini micro cameras in their nano paint, and they reflect whatever's on top on the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, they have Delta wing aircraft and other stealth bombers that essentially have built-in sort of quote unquote cloaking technology, but essentially it's sort of the same concept as the tank. Is it just makes it more difficult to pick it up on radar. But I've also heard of technology similar to what you were just talking about that makes it difficult to see to the naked eye. Not totally invisible, but when it's way up there in the sky, a lot more difficult to see.
Right. You're sitting far away from everything and you're like, I didn't see any cloaking, machines out there, but it's out there. It's out there. And that's where I wonder how many of these, machines have the ability to actually cloak. I'm still going through all these. This Air Force general wants a cloaking device for his aerial tanks. This is in Bloomberg. We're gonna pull this up right here and give this on here. Like this technology, they've been talking about it for a while, and it could be here. It's maybe already in use, TR-3Bs and all these other things that are out there. But the idea of being able to be invisible, isn't it in Harry Potter? He has like a cloak he can put on, and it looks like a rock or something.
Not sure if it looks like a rock, but the invisibility cloak is like Harry got it from his dad, James. My inner nerd's coming out right now. He got it from his dad, James, and he's able to throw it over himself, and he goes like totally invisible. So I think he got that in if not the first movie, definitely the second one.
All right, here, this is what we wanted to talk about. This is what we thought what Putin was doing, right? Mm-hmm. The Air Force general, well, we're going to put it on the screen for you guys to see it here. Give me a second so you guys can read along. This Air Force general wants a cloaking device for his aerial tankers. The U.S. Air Force military transport chief is tapping Silicon Valley, the defense industry, and the Pentagon's new innovation office in search for electronic cloaking technologies out of Star Trek to shrink the profile of aerial tankers on an enemy radar. So that's what we were talking about, with the tanks and everything else, is just pulling them off of radar. That makes them invisible, but it's not invisible to the eye like we were hoping.
Right. But I mean, there's even still, like I said, allegations of that they might have that sort of technology to equip to their stealth bombers and whatnot. So, who knows, whether or not they really have it. I mean, it raises the question of, what all have we seen really flying over Area 51, right? Because that's one of the biggest questions, and one of my biggest positions is a lot of these UFOs that we see that's either partially cloaked or kind of cloaked, or we don't know exactly what they are. Maybe not exactly extraterrestrial, but they're like super advanced craft that are super top secret, but they were built right here on Earth.
You know what that is? When people see the UFOs in real life, that's some dude that's in the spaceship and they're like, damn it, Don, you forgot to hit the cloaking button again. Everyone's going to see us. Hit the button. No, it's like I said, we're just taking out of here. And then they fly away. That's exactly what happened. I'm sure that's happened before, that somebody's up there in their spaceship. They forgot to hit the cloaking button and they didn't realize it. And everyone in the Phoenix lights over there in Phoenix was like, oh, there's a big boomerang aircraft that's floating through space like it's anti-gravity. No, but in all reality, there is a lot of unexplained aircraft out there that the government may have or may be working on that might be as a result of things that we saw in Grudge and Blue Book and a lot of these alleged government research and programs into unidentified flying objects. And I think that we're starting to see that. It was in the news yesterday, wasn't it, about UFOs? This is a Drudge Report. This isn't like we're making it up. This straight out of Vice. Activist publishes redacted version of classified military UFO report. The classified version of a much hyped UFO report describes shapes of UFOs is far more interesting than the one released to the public. Last June, the Department of Defense released a long-awaited and much-hyped document called Preliminary Assessment Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, or UAPs, detailing the government's knowledge of UFOs and its programs trying to detect, catalog them. Many UFOologists hope that the UFO report would be a watershed moment in the field, showing that the government was taking UFOs seriously and perhaps explaining what the government thought they were. Unfortunately, the 9-page report was pretty much overwhelmingly, for the most part, it revealed things we already knew and read primarily like a plea from the DoD for more funding. Tantalizingly, we were told that members of Congress received a classified briefing with more information that would likely never be released to the public. John Greenwell, the government's transparency virtuoso behind the Black Vault, however, has a gift for us today. A redacted version of the classified report obtained by filing a mandatory declassification review. This version of the report is longer and much more interesting, detailed by example the most common shapes of UFOs spotted by the military. So why would shapes of these things be of interest?
Because I think it sort of, details, not necessarily details, but indicates that's the word I was looking for. It sort of indicates, what they might be or what they might be able to do, or whether or not maybe they're even hostile or not. So, the two of the main shapes, not the only, but like the two first main shapes that really come to mind that people see or claim to have seen are the saucers, and then like the long cigar shaped ones. And then there's of course, there's the floating orbs, like the balls, and then there's the delta shape, the triangle or the two-sided triangle. It's missing the bottom part. So I'm not sure exactly, because of course the military has more information about this topic that they have not yet declassified, and I'm sure they have some sort of detection system or something to be able to determine what's and they haven't let that part out.
Well, and then what's the most popular one we see that's most likely government? The TR-3B, which is allegedly anti-gravity, can travel at incredible speeds. And those things, are they drone flown? Or, I mean, there's no way a physical person could survive inside something that travels and takes bizarre 90-degree turns, goes up and down and left and right at those speeds. Like your blood would be stuck to the bottom of your foot or your head, your skull. Right. What's the actual reality of somebody surviving? And so you'd have to have some kind of synthetic life form created specifically for that chore. Since we've been talking about synthetic biology and spaceships that breathe and can create oxygen and food in space, that's the future. Maybe that's something that's already been done, creating these engineered synthetic biology alien drones. And so they got these little ant-looking dudes who can, all the blood goes to that big noggin of theirs, and that's why they're stumbling and looking all goofy when they walk out of those UFOs. I don't know. Hey, we're up to commercial break. You're listening to the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. We've been diving into a whole bunch of topics today: cloaked animals, cloaked people, not cloned people, cloned animals, cloaked drones and tanks, and now we're talking about UAPs and their shapes, like cigars. And I'm not really well versed on a lot of this stuff, but we've had Richard Dolan on and Lee Spiegel and Mark D'Antonio and some of the experts on this. And where do the shapes come from? What do they mean? Are they different types of governments or aliens, or who knows? Maybe it's the Klingons. We'll be back after these messages from our sponsors. You're listening to rundownlive.com on KGRADB and band.video.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kriston T. Harris.
In shapes. That's right. The United States government is interested in shapes of UAPs. You're listening to the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com, and it is Freaky Friday, where we talk about paranormal, crazy science, and things that just cannot be true, but they are coming to reality right now. You're listening to this broadcast with my co-host, Don Vi Jr., and we are discussing the UAP released by Greenwald here. And, you know, I'm interested in reading this because this is what it has to say about this, what they're interested in. Although there was a wide variety in reports and data sets and currently too limited to allow for detailed trends and pattern analysis, there was some clustering of UAP observations regarding shape, size, and particularly propulsion. UAP sightings also tended to cluster around U.S. training and testing grounds. Makes you wonder if they're our own government's product, right? But we assess that this may result from a collection of bias and result of focusing attention, greater numbers of latest generations, sensor and operating in these areas, on unit expectations and guidance to report the anomalies. And what's interesting is what they're saying is when they see these things, there's not normally a pattern of how these UAPs arrive. However, and that there's not normally a cluster of them throughout the world. However, they do see them in specific areas at specific times in clusters. Observed UAP usually travel between blank and blank altitudes, so letting you know what they normally fly. It says, let's see, some UAPs remained stationary in winds aloft, so meaning when there's winds, they didn't even move. They stood still. They move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, and move at a considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings. Although there are a lot of black lines here where we can't read anything, it says recordings of radars displayed, and then it blacked out. And it talks about altitude. For some reason, they don't want you to know what level the UAPs fly.
Yeah, there's a lot of redaction there, and I think it also kind of indicates with these documents that even the military, who we know have studied this subject for quite a long time, going back to the 1950s and 60s, even to some degree, they're not sure exactly what some of these things are. And it makes you really wonder, exactly what's going on. When you read these sort of documents where they talk about, maneuvers that are almost impossible to do with conventional aircraft, with going against the wind, which, I mean, that is possible to do, but, going straight up vertical, standing there, hovering, and all sorts of things like that are just really abnormal sort of behaviors that are not typical of conventional aircraft. And, even in these formally classified documents, it seems like there's an air of bewilderment there. And, it makes you wonder, just how long has this really been going on? So that's one of my big questions for you. What do you know as the first recorded incident of a UFO crash or some sort of incident?
Like a crash or an incident, because those are two different, like
the first recorded incident of like something like claiming that it came down and crashed and stuff like that.
Well, I know that while having some frosty beverages in the past, I have went through the treasure trove of the Library of Congress, and I found stories from the 1800s of dancing stars in the trees where cowboys got on their horses and rode up to the mountain hill, and then they came back ghostly white, pale, and scared for their lives, and they literally sent out hunting parties to go after what they thought were sprites or fairies or dancing lights in the trees that were coming around. And that sounds a lot like those glowing orbs to me.
Yeah. But there is one specific incident. A lot of people, they talk about Roswell. And by the way, I want to plug the website that we're reading this off of really quick, because John Greenwald Jr. Of theBlackVault.com does an amazing job with acquiring these documents. He's been doing it since he was 18 years old. It's one of my favorite websites. I've learned a lot from it. So I just want to plug him really quick. Definitely check out theBlackVault.com. Anyway, jumping back to what I was saying. There's one particular incident, because when you talk about UFO crashes, like and UFOs in general, one of the most infamous incidents is Roswell, New Mexico, 1947. But did you know there was an incident before that, almost 60 years before that, in Texas in the 1800s, in 1897?
Right. I didn't know that. So what was it in 1987 or 18? Was it 1887? You said?
Yeah, so 1897, there was an incident in Aurora, Texas. And I actually have this clip here from the History Channel, if I can pull it up really quickly.
Sure.
And we're going to go ahead and check this out, because, this is straight from the History Channel mainstream. You can say whatever you want. You're like, oh, Ancient Aliens. But, it's not from Ancient Aliens, by the way. It's from, I think, UFO Files. But that's the interesting thing about it is there's, some slight credibility to this. When you think where there's smoke, there's fire. Let's check this out. If I can. There we go.
The 1947 Roswell incident may be the most famous UFO crash story of all time. But was it the first? On April 17, 1897, a mysterious airship was seen in the skies over the small Fort Worth suburb of Aurora, Texas, on a collision course with the home of a local judge.
The story of the Aurora crash is fairly simple and straightforward. According to the newspaper accounts at the time, early in the morning of April 17th, 1897, a large silver cigar-shaped object came fluttering closer and closer to the earth, struck a tower at Judge Proctor's house, exploded, scattering debris all over the place.
2 days later, April 19th, 1897, the Dallas Morning News reported,
about 6 o'clock this morning, the early risers of Aurora were astonished at the sudden appearance of the airship which has been sailing through the country. It was traveling due north and much nearer the earth than ever before. It sailed directly over the public square, and when it reached the north part of town, collided with the tower of Judge Proctor's windmill and went into pieces with a terrific explosion.
Top speed at that time was about 35 to 40 miles an hour by train. And for reputable people to say something flew over their head going more than 100 miles an hour would be the same as us saying something went over our head going thousands of miles an hour.
According to the local legend, many of Aurora's residents raced to Judge J.S. Proctor's farm to help in any way they could. What they found was beyond comprehension. The Dallas Morning News reported that someone or something was in the craft.
The pilot of the ship is supposed to have been the only one on board, and while his remains were badly disfigured, enough of the original has been picked up to show that he was not an inhabitant of this world. Mr. T.J. Weems, the United States Army Signal Services officer at this place and an authority on astronomy, gives it as his opinion that the pilot was a native of the planet Mars.
His description was that it was an alien in form, and he was referred to as a Martian. Now, the only reference to Martians at that time were in the drawings of the science fiction writers, so it could have been sparked in part by literature.
According to the Fort Worth Register, the alien did not survive. They reported that he was given a Christian burial in the town cemetery.
The fragments of the craft were then thrown down a well. The townspeople more or less wanted to forget about it, and I won't say pretend it didn't happen, but probably couldn't cope with what happened and didn't know.
A small stone was placed over the unmarked plot to confirm the grave of the airship pilot. Years have gone by, leaving fewer and fewer eyewitnesses to the events of April 1897. Eventually, the story became a legend, a colorful tale that some considered to be fiction. Judge Proctor's land was sold. The newspapers stopped writing about the incident in Aurora, and the gravesite became little more than a curiosity.
Interesting stuff, when people talk about these things from the 1800s and how could it be possible.
Indeed it is. It makes
you really loud.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that volume. I couldn't turn it up. I don't know why it wouldn't let me, click it.
Yeah, not a worry. No worries, bro. You're good now. Yeah, that's interesting, Don. So basically, this is a claim. I'm pulling it up from the Library of Congress to see if I can pull up the article on this.
Yeah, because that's one of the first ones. I heard about the story that you mentioned too about the dancing lights and whatnot. And so it's really interesting. You have these stories going back to the 1800s and even before that, the 1700s, and even ancient times. There's allegations of like weird things that people saw in the sky that they wrote it down. And was it an alien, a Martian? I don't know about all that, because my biggest thing about the Aurora incident, if there's supposedly this gravesite there, not to be disrespectful or poop on the legend, but let's exhume it. Let's see what's there.
Yeah, that's science, but it's a defecation to the grave, right? Could it just be a hoax?
Maybe. But then my question is why though? Like, why would such a small town? Maybe they wanted to get, bring in some tourists. Like maybe they needed the financial help or something like that. So they decided they were all in on it. Like, who knows, but
here, I pulled up the actual article. Let's see what the actual article says on the screen here. And this is from add to screen. There we go. Let's see if I can blow it up a little bit for our viewers. Okay, it says a windmill demolishes it. Aurora, Wise County, Texas. Let's see, to the news. About 6 o'clock this morning, the early risers of Aurora were astonished at the sudden appearance of an airship, which has been sailing through the country. Okay, it was traveling due north and much nearer the Earth than ever before. What does that mean, ever before? Does that mean that they've seen other airships fly in the sky?
That was my first thought when I saw that video earlier today when I was setting up for the show. As soon as they said ever before, I'm like, well, hold on. That's language indicative that you've seen things previously. So
yeah,
let's get that story.
Evidently, some of the machinery was out of order, but it was making a speed of only 10 or 12 miles an hour and gradually settled toward the Earth. It sailed directly over the public square. So they said it was going to 10 or 12 miles an hour square. And when it reached the north part of the town, collided with the tower of Judge Proctor's windmill and went to pieces with a terrific explosion, scattering debris over several acres of ground, wrecking the windmill and water tank and destroying the judge's flower garden. So it sounds like a pretty big thing. That wasn't just like a hot air balloon or something.
I was about to say, it sounds like a blimp to me.
Yeah, it does sound like a blimp. The pilot of the ship is supposed to have been the only one on board, and while his remains, notice it's a he, and while his remains are badly disfigured, enough of the original has been picked up to show that he was not an inhabitant of this world.
That is interesting.
Yep, that is interesting. Mr. T.J. Weems, the United States Signal Service officer at this place and an authority on astronomy, gives it as his opinion that he was a native of this planet Mars. He's Marvin the Martian. Why would you think Mars? Why? Like, is it? See, was that like a legend already that there were Martians or Mars creatures visiting this planet? How far back does the Martian conspiracy go?
Well, they mentioned that in the video, that the idea that he could have been a Martian probably stemmed from the science fiction of the time, because back then in 1897, like the only mention whatsoever of Martians at all was in the science fiction, like the little, not like penny dreadfuls, but like the little, penny sort of booklets that you could purchase down at the corner store or something like that. So it's like little science fiction writings. That's pretty much the only thing back then that mentioned Martians.
Was this guy just a deformed individual? I don't know. Here it says papers found. They found papers on him. Papers found on his person. Evidently, the record of his travels are written in some unknown hieroglyphics and cannot be deciphered. The ship was too badly wrecked to form any conclusion as to its construction or mode of power. It was built of an unknown metal resembling somewhat a mixture of aluminum and silver, and it must have weighed several tons. The town is full of people today who are viewing the wreck and gathered specimens of the strange metal from the debris. The pilot's funeral will take place at noon tomorrow.
That is interesting. That is directly from the source. And and always when it comes to these old newspaper clippings, I always have to ask the question, why would they lie?
They'd be lying. They're like, we need the people to come to Aurora, Texas. We're done with oil. Let's get some. Yeah, I don't know.
Why would tourism money?
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can think of is maybe blow up a story and get some tourism money.
That's wild. Like that. This is from like Jim Mars, by the way. Jim Mars and I met.
That's awesome.
I got to tell my little story about Jim Mars because recently this week we had Sean Stone on, and when I met Jim Mars, I was hanging with Sean Stone. Who would have thought?
Oh wow.
Yeah, we were in Dallas hanging out, and what were we doing? Goldschlager at the time, and Jim Mars was a bourbon dude. So we were like, hey, Jim, you want to have some shots? And we hung out for a little bit, and I kept teasing him. I was like, Jim, you look like the guy from Jurassic Park. So I don't know if I was just being on. I was like, welcome to Jurassic Park. And he goes, you don't know how often I get that. Because he looked like the safari, like Indiana Jones type, and that's who he was. That's exactly who he was too. He had the leather hat. I was waiting for him to have a bullwhip, But Jim Mars was an incredible individual who wrote "Rule by Secrecy," dealing with secret societies. He was a guy who did a little bit of everything, but much like Richard Dolan. I tell you what, we got to get Richard Dolan on. Maybe I can get him on next week, Friday. I'll send him a text. He's the top UFO historian. He's got to know about these stories. And then we're going to talk about I'm going to tell him we want to talk about the oldest, stories on UFOs that are out there. But that's wild that you found that. That's crazy. They had Jim Mars in it, who I know.
Right.
I knew. Oh, by the way, that's sad about Jim Mars passed too, not too long ago. So we've lost a lot of greats in the last 20 years, bro.
Most definitely, man. It's definitely hard when sort of pioneers essentially of a lot of the work that we do, pass on, and we can only hope that maybe we can carry that torch and carry on their legacy.
Right. Jim Mars gone in the last few years. Jordan Maxwell just a couple days ago. Anthony Hilder a few years ago. William Cooper almost 20 years ago to the day. We're getting on May 21 now, I think. But like a lot of the people that research this stuff, not that we agree with them, they brought awareness. They're researchers. They're searching again. To research doesn't mean that you're technically the original person. You might be somebody else's work. That's why you're searching again, or to search again, And so people are like, you didn't do your own research. And I was like, yeah, that just means I just research somebody else's stuff potentially, So somebody says that they're going to clone me. Clones Kristan. No. Oh, don't clone Ronald. There's a big debate on who with the Rundown Live. By the way, guys, we have open phone lines. If you guys want to call in today, 1-855-472-5483. Wild. I wonder what the oldest UFO story is out there while we are on this conversation. There's got to be like older stories than this. And I'm kind of interested.
Well, as it turns out, I actually have an article here from Gaia. Ironically, we talk about Sean Stone. We had Sean Stone on the show just the few days ago. He did a thing on Gaia for a while. And it's ancient UFOs UFOs in ancient art hidden in plain sight. And this is came out August 22nd of a few years ago. And that essentially goes on talking about, just ancient depictions of what seemed to be flying materials and flying saucers and
things that could be. It isn't like it's the only thing. Like right there in the beginning, you have a guy inside of a star or inside of a sun,
right? Yes,
and
it could be anything. Definitely could be anything, but it's one of those things that just makes you go, You know what I mean?
Like sun worship to me, dude. That looks like somebody's like, I'm traveling inside the sun, and it's cool painting. Like. Right. I get it. Like the hieroglyphics that look like airplanes and helicopters. I find that stuff fascinating. I do. I really do.
Oh yeah, same. Because it's, we want to decipher it. It's not like we're saying like, oh yeah, there's definitely proof of ancient aliens, because like come on, come on. But it's one of those things like you have to look at and be like, this is interesting, because even if it's not UFOs, like just from me being interested in anthropology, it's one of those things that. It gives you a look into the psyche of the people of that time, and that in and of itself is interesting.
Well, maybe this is how people are seeing, UFOs. Man claims he fired shots at aliens on neighbor's porch and property after he smoked meth. Maybe to see the aliens, you need to smoke. I wonder if they do a survey. How many of you have smoked meth right before your alien experience? No, I'm not. I'm not legitimately saying, like, people have encounters of unexplainable things. They do. Like, I don't mean to make fun of people. I'm just saying
I've had one.
You've had one. What was okay? Let's talk about this. Don, tell us your UFO experience.
Okay, it's not one of those really big. It's not one of those really big fantastical sort of stories. But it was many, many years ago. I was like 10 years old, but I'll never forget it because it was the wildest thing I'd ever seen, because even back then, I knew that, airplanes go in a straight line. They don't go vertical. But I was in Henrico, Virginia. I was with my mom. And we're just sort of going down the road. We stop on the side of the road really quick. And I just happened to look. It's like sort of dusk, but it's like becoming darker. I don't remember what time of year it was. And I look over. And I don't know where we were because, like I said, I was 10 years old. But I just remember I looked over and there was this light that was floating above the trees. And then it stopped. And I was like, that's weird. Because even as a kid, you're like, that shouldn't do that. And then it just slowly started to go up. And then it shot up in the air. And I was like, yo, that's awesome. So, not the most fantastical of stories, but something weird that I saw that always, to this day sticks out of my memory. Because even back then I was like, aircraft don't do that.
Man, it was a Chinese lantern, bro. It was gases by seagulls farting in the air, and what you saw was the explosion of that gas that they were allowing to
maybe
secrete out of their pigeon anuses. It's wild. The explanations. Here's another one that's in there. American Airlines pilots harrowing UFO reports to FBI. So detailed it shook experts. UFOs in the mainstream media. That's a big thing right now. And it's almost like it's weird to me because these, what I would consider conspiracy skeptics, these Wikipedias of the world, they embrace this. They do. They embrace it. Not as quackery. It's only quackery if it comes from somebody like William Cooper or Greer or Dolan or anyone that spent their life researching it. It's just like what were they just talking about? The New World Order. And everyone was defining what the New World Order is, but nobody asked me, lifelong researcher. No one was asking Alex Jones, I'm sure, what is the New World Order? You've done research your entire life. No, you're just a crazy conspiracy theorist, and what you believe it is must be wrong because you're not credible, because you just are right. Was Alex Jones is right? Is like a non-ongoing trend on Twitter, nonstop, almost every day. It's wild. And, it's just weird because UFOs have always been a fringe thing. Not even Jones wanted to talk about it. He'd be like, we just don't do everything but UFOs around here, and I don't blame him because, anal probing gray men. And was it Chris Carter from X-Files said that he became dangerously close to exposing stuff, and that there was probably threats on the show, and people are amazed that he was allowed to cover some of the things that he was covering. I mean, was it legitimate? Is it real? I'm not quite sure. I'm not sold on the UFO aliens thing. I'm more sold on that it's government operations. We're literally abducting our own people, doing horrible things to them, animals, you name it.
There was actually that you mentioned that, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but you mentioned that, and it's so perfect. I don't remember the article. I believe it was out of the Pulse, but there is an incident that I read, official article, documents and whatnot. The CIA had a program where they were down in Central America, and they essentially had this thing where they were abducting people, and they would make them think that they were abducted by aliens when really the CIA was abducting them and like doing weird experiments and crap on them. It was weird.
Right. Do you guys remember Men in Black? And they have the little thing and they're like, and they implanted memories. Literally, like they have the ability. I'm going to pull this up right now. Just because it's Freaky Friday, they can implant memories. You want to buy memories that you took a vacation? That's out there. Implantable memories. And it's funny because we were talking about this during the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. They brought in a memory expert. Can you implant memories? Just by suggestion, you can. Memory corruption, all these other things. Implantable, here you go, memory implantation. Memory implantation is a technique used in cognitive psychology to investigate human memory, and memory implantation studies and researchers make people believe that they remember an event that actually never happened. And when we go to the news, we have scientists receives grant to develop nanoscale memory devices, how the brain forms memories. Let's see. Most people say they're cool with having chips implanted in their brains, but only if they can turn them off. That's in the news today.
Good luck.
Let's see. I know I read this here. Implantable memories, vacation. It says a total recall for mice. Scientists implant false memories. That's in 2013. We can implant entirely false memories. 2003, The Guardian.
Wow.
2003. We can do it. Oh, guess what, bro? You were abducted by aliens. You saw Bugs Bunny at Disneyland, and then you went up in a balloon, didn't you, Laura Spinney, on the remembrance of past things. We can implant entirely false memories. And that's just humans in 2003. So like 20 years ago, they were talking about implanting false memories. MK Ultra implanting false memories. Now, who's to say they don't just have like a device that can do it quickly for you?
Right. It's just one of those things because it makes you question what is and isn't real at that point, because you're like, if you have some sort of wild experience, like say you get abducted or something like that, and you just have this crazy experience and you think it was aliens, okay, so example, we have the mystery of what is it, Skinwalker Ranch, or like any of those other like UFO hotspots with the people living. Have you watched
that show, Skinwalker Ranch?
A little bit here and there, but not necessarily.
Yeah, I watched the first season.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so you have these instances of people living somewhere that's like a hotbed of activity, or like someone who claims that they've been like abducted by aliens before. Who's to say that it wasn't just the CIA coming in and doing some really weird stuff and then just implanting that false memory in there? Because, there was a great memory by my colleagues over at The Pulse. Fantastic website. If you don't know it, definitely check them out. thepulse.one, formerly known as Collective Evolution. And they actually did this great article a couple years ago where they talked about the fact that the CIA has a disinformation program where they will have CIA agents, and there was actually a CIA whistleblower who came out and admitted that he was a part of a UFO disinformation program where he would plant out bogus and BS stories about UFOs and abductions and stuff like that to sort of like a limited hangout operation. And for those who don't know what a limited hangout is, we covered it many episodes ago. It's essentially an intelligence operation where they will take a little bit of truthful information and then they'll sprinkle a bunch of bogus, BS over top of it and disseminate it to the public, and essentially in an attempt to get people to pay attention to that, sort of like a sleight of hand trick to get them to, throw them off the trail, essentially.
Yeah. Just think about it. Like, just all this ability of technology. Scientists read dreams using brain scans. Can they walk into your brain, into your dreams? Well, how long before they start invading our dreams? Nanobots are living in our brain. They're going to just implant horrible memories and things of that nature. It's just wild that this technology is already out there. By the way, we got to go to commercial break. Didn't realize we were running low on time. 1-855-472-5483. Things are going fast on Fringe and Freaky Friday here on the Rundown Live, which we've adopted for quite some time. Kev Baker over there, he used to have his Freaky Friday with their buddies Popeye, and we've been on it, and a lot of other programs. It's kind of an ode to that culture. It's not like us like trying to copy them. It's actually an extension of that type of idea, and it is Kev Baker's idea in general, and it's him living on through the Rundown Live. We'll be back, guys. We'll talk soon after these messages from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. If you guys want to call in, 1-855-472-5483, and if that's hard to remember, 85 KGRA Live.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Tune in to the Rundown Live weekdays on KGRA Radio. Kriston T. Harris, Don Vi Jr. Visit therundownlive.com. Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris, here with Don Vi Jr. Today's program is a nod to the Kev Baker Freaky Friday, as we've dubbed it, Fringe and Freaky Friday, kind of where we can talk about anything. Like, you guys want to talk Flat Earth? We'll talk Flat Earth, even though I don't want to talk Flat Earth or Hollow Earth or any of these things. But I'm interested. We're talking UFOs. We've talked about, human cloning, animal cloning, invisible technology, crazy, implanting memories, invading people's dreams, all this technology that's out there that they can do. They can maybe implant dreams. That's where we got into. We were talking about, well, who's to say people are really having UFO experiences when they're just maybe being hypnotized or being edited. And it won't be long before we're all just every day in our little metaverse, because everyone seems to be talking about metaverse holiday robot. Here it is, the U.S. Sun. I travel inside bizarre metaverse vacation where robot explores a holiday spot while you wear goggles and exoskeleton at home. Now, this is like that UN Agenda 21 thing where you never leave your house because you're going to emit carbon and you're going to kill the planet. So you can't go on vacation. But guess what? Wall-E can go on vacation. Here's a video of it. We're not going to play the audio, or I'm going to try to avoid playing the audio. All right. There we go. But VR, virtual reality, is something that I promise you I will try. Like, the next computer I buy will be a virtual reality computer, because I kind of want to see what this is like, what this future is like. And literally, they're just putting on like basically a spacesuit, and you can see things. But here, look at that. He can control a robot remotely using a 3D walking item, which seems to have a brace around his waist. And he's got the goggles on. Look, he's shaking people's hands. And he even has this outfit that allows him to feel and touch things.
That's cool, man. Like, I can't even lie. That's pretty dope.
I mean, I'm a video game nerd, and that's just it. That's going to be the attraction. It's cool.
Yeah.
AF. It is. Why wouldn't you want to just, like, I'm not saying it's cool that a robot is going to do everything while you sit in your little pea-pod home, you in Agenda 21 prison, and can't leave the house only when they set a little alarm to your cell phone, because that's where they're really going with all this smart grids and smart cities, which we're going to talk about here. But they now have the ability to give people the sense of touch using VR. And we talked about recently how in New Zealand, a video game is company is trying to develop a fully immersible brain chip interface version, which will turn off your vision and your ears and literally beam you into a Matrix style world. Well, here we have it. This is Demolition Man come true. Futuristic sex in the metaverse could be made possible with an exoskeleton, according to experts.
That's just one of those things, is like, I can get behind it with video games and stuff like that, because like Skyrim in VR, or just imagine Elden Ring in VR. That'd be dope. But like that's VR sex is just a bit far for me.
Well, I mean, it's all about burning calories, bro. Even the VR games, you're more active, you're moving your body, you're up there and you're running and you're part of it, you're swinging the sword. That's what Nintendo Wii did for a lot of us. It started to condition us to get ready for the VR world. That was its intents and purpose. And Nintendo is a great company. It's been around for years and years and years and years. And they figured out that if you have a controller called a nunchuck, because it sounds like nunchuck, and we all love Michelangelo from Ninja Turtles, you're going to shake it and you're going to swing it like a baseball bat or a tennis racket, or you're going to spike a volleyball, or, whatever. You're going to have it like a steering wheel for Mario Kart. Well, here we have it. Futuristic sex in the metaverse. Do you think it's like washing machine ready, this outfit? Like, how do you clean this thing? Dream Touch is a tech that relies on virtual reality gloves, activating nerves throughout the body, and stimulates a real-time sexual experience. Love Online virtual reality exoskeleton is going to make that all possible for you lonely gents out there. You don't need to get the robot, just get the digital robot. And in fact, I tell you what, I'll wear goggles and I'll have sex for you while you're in your VR world. Because that's like wait, like that's what's happening. We got robots going on vacation. Here's a guy in VR. Why not just have robots have sex for you? Like that's just throwing it out there. Somebody's gonna think of it. That's what's gonna happen, and then somebody's gonna be stuck at the laundromat trying to figure out how to clean up this exoskeleton scoot. Here you go, virtual reality, real sex, and combining it with sex robots. That's another thing,
man.
So you're going to wear the goggles and she's going to say and do the things you want, but you're going to have the robot there to see and feel like it's the real thing. It's just wild. So it's called DreamCam, collects and analyzes a set of spatial coordinates for all physical objects using artificial neural networks. This allows us to mimic the full body sexual experience than an in-person encounter provides. Golden doesn't think the exoskeleton would make metaverse sex feel exactly the same as it does in real life. However, he doesn't think it's a bad thing. VR sex isn't limiting to one's physical traits and behaviors. The Dream Touch technology provides different feelings and sensations traditional sex cannot provide. Having virtual reality sex may sound like a futuristic concept, but Goldwyn expects it to become normalized. Normal. When are we going to get the kindergarten, child, sex change book saying, here's your VR goggles, try sex out. I know you're 5 years old and you can have sex with someone to experience what health class is really about in the future.
And it's interesting when they say, it'll be normalized, because
that's what I think. Children,
like definitely, think about that word normalized, because it's a point that I've been bringing up since the Great Reset thing started. That this is the new normal. We need to normalize this. So whenever you need to normalize something, that means it's not normal, and you're trying to force it to be normal. Okay, so you have normal, then you have normalized.
Why do they want to normalize this unless they want us to all sit and be fat blobs in our home and not have physical relationships in a fully automated luxury communist future, which is something we predicted here in the Rundown Live? Huh?
Yeah, because they're absolute psychopaths. That's why. And
are the innovators though? Like, who would it thought Gene Roddenberry was a psychopath?
Well, not necessarily the innovators. The innovators are just doing technology stuff. That's what they do. They come up with innovations for technology. But the people that push these agendas to normalize this, definitely, have sex in the metaverse and stop having physical contact with other human beings. Those are the psychopaths, the social engineers, the people that are really pulling the strings of this whole agenda. Those are the psychopaths. And, it's interesting because we had, when Sean Stone was on, toward the end of that interview, he was talking about, the energies and the spiritualness that comes with sex, and actually, the exchange of energy that comes with being with another person. And, that's why they want to push this, solo masturbatory sort of, experience on people, because it disconnects you from other human beings.
Right. So this is what it has to say. Like I'm telling you, I'm predicting now VR sex and schools and elementary schools. That's where it's going to start out. If they're going to normalize it, that's where we're going to see it. Having virtual reality sex may sound like a futuristic concept, but it's here. Basically, the inventors told the Sun the metaverse is here to stay, and it's quickly becoming the world where we will all work, all play, and yes, even date and have sex. So you're going to date people in the metaverse in your fake world because you can't leave your home and meet a real chick because you just suck at the game, because you have this awkward youth, because some weird, drag queen is going to come and read you story times in kindergarten while we're talking about changing your, sex change and cutting off your woo-ha. Of course, everyone's going to be like, oh, I can be whatever I want in the metaverse. I can be Catwoman and Dogman and Centaur, and that's who I really am in real life. And you're going to have jobs in the VR world. I'm going to tell you that right away. In the metaverse, you'll be working. They're already talking about that with Samsung. The desire to have sex is a prominent part of human nature, and we expect that the desire will translate as we integrate into more virtual world. The exoskeleton isn't as expensive as you think either. How much do you think an exoskeleton would cost?
I have no idea. I mean, I see the article right there. It says the gloves will cost like $300. Software will cost $50. So I don't know, maybe a few hundred, and that's that's the crazy part about it. You think it'd be wild expensive,
right? And I have somewhere I'm going with this though. Like people are talking about the metaverse all the time. It's in the news, saturated. Here it is, the UK Sun. Inside plan for utopian metaverse city that will have almost no rules or police.
And
will crimes in the metaverse be tried as real crimes in real life, or will you only be banned in that real metaverse?
I don't know, but it's definitely, we predicted this just a couple weeks ago, didn't we? This article came out just a few days ago?
Yeah.
Look at us ahead of the curve, because that's basically right nail on the head with what we were talking about just a few weeks ago. This utopianist sort of like utopian communism, sort of technocratic. You live in this fake world, just be in your pod. The Matrix, man. It's the Matrix.
Is it just the Matrix though, bro? And what I mean by that, here's another article that this just came out as well. Feel virtually everything. Reality pain in the metaverse. You can feel pain. So now you can get whipped and you can be like, oh, world of pain. You could feel real pain in the metaverse, including birds pecking at your skin, thanks to Japanese startup. If you thought living in virtual reality of the metaverse would let you escape the pains of the real world, you need to think again. A Sony-backed Japanese startup company called H2L Technologies is working on creating real-life pain experiences for the metaverse, so they can torture you. We won't torture you in real life. We'll just have a machine. We'll just hook you up and it'll zap you and electrically stimulate you, or make you think that you're being abused when you're not being abused.
And that's interesting, because I read this article not too long ago, like probably within the last few weeks. That something about, I can barely remember it, but there's something about technology that they can make you feel like you've served like a prison sentence, a 10-year prison sentence in like a couple weeks,
right?
And stuff like that. Didn't we bring that up on the show? I think we brought it up on the show, didn't we?
Yeah, a long time ago. Like the military is working on tortured elements that would make an hour seem like 30 years or something like that, and it slows down your body's sense of time, where everything you're thinking at the fast speed, but everything is more moving at a very slow speed, so it seems like you felt or lived forever,
right?
So when we're talking about VR, there's people who are trying to create this fake VR world, but then there's these people right here. I know your favorite drink, Chinese smart city, to put AI in charge. I'm not even making this up. Web Summit Conference. Here's plans by Danish architecture firm big and Chinese company.
What he thinks about that. We do have a caller on you.
Oh, hey, do we? All right. I guess we'll go to the phone lines here. Caller from California, Luis. How you doing? Welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in on today's broadcast. Sorry I didn't catch you right away. What do you got for us today, Luis?
Oh, hey, I'm kind of wondering about this VR crap. That one where you're talking about lockdown? Yeah, it says lockdown, like Wall-E. Think about Wall-E, where people are just freaking lazy and not doing anything.
Well, I mean, that's the idea, and I just pulled it up on the screen for you guys. Caller Lewis is calling from California, wants to know, like the idea that you're going to just sit in this like prison type complex where you're not leaving your home, that you're only allowed out at certain times, and you can only get in self-driving cars going from this place to that place. It all ties into what we're talking about with this AI super city, because the AI will monitor you. It'll know when you leave your home. It'll know what you do inside of your home. It'll have cameras and be able to, everything you search on the internet, it will be able to work in pre-crime and thought crime. This is straight out of Minority Report, and you're going to have people that are going to be able to be fully immersive. Like right now we're seeing goggles, Lewis. We're seeing like these 3D running treadmills where, you can run on them, and then you've got the gloves to put on and you can hear things and get shot. But in the future, they'll just have a brain chip interface where they'll have the brain chip in your head and it'll automatically shut all this off. That's already in the news. I'll pull it up right now. I'm sure of it. I mean, what's your opinion? Would you dive into the VR? Are you going to get into VR?
Nah.
I don't really blame you, to be honest.
Hey, you watch that movie called Ready Player One. It's all about virtual reality.
Yep.
And the whole world, everyone in the city is indulged in it. And here it is. Valve is creating a brain-computer interface for fully immersive video games, president reveals. The head of a game giant, Valve, has revealed that the company is working on a way to connect human brains to computers in order to revolutionize gaming and fundamentally alter human experiences. Gabe Newell told New Zealand's #1 News that Valve is working on neuroscience platform OpenBCI to develop an open source brain computer interface software. One of the goals is to allow people to fully immerse themselves in video games through VR style headset. However, Mr. Newell claimed that the ultimate potential is nearly limitless. We're working on an open source project so that everyone can have high resolution brain signal read technologies built into the headsets in a bunch of different models, he said. A lot of our products, design, discussion sound like a science fiction. Our ability to create experience in people's brains that are not mediated through their meat peripherals will actually be better than is possible. So did you hear what he said? A lot of our products, design, discussions sound like a science fiction or ability to create experience in a person's brain other than using their meat peripherals, your eyes, your ears. So they're going to shut off your brain and you're going to think that you're actually in the world. This would mean that by tapping directly into the part of the brain responsible for visual and audio or sensory feedback, a user's experience would be vastly improved than what it is delivered through the eyes and ears. The real world will stop being so metric that we apply to the best possible visual fidelity, he said. The real world will seem flat, colorless, blurry, compared to the experiences that you'll be able to create in people's brains.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Sign me up. Get me on the list.
You know, it's absolutely wild, and you know, we've talked about it before. This is exactly what they're going for. You know, plugging people. You know, it's really plugging people into the matrix, man. Like, I hate to keep start cycling back to that, but it really is. That's exactly what it is, and it's hella creepy.
Yeah, that's where it comes down to. And I'm not even like, it's not something I'm making up. I'm putting this full screen so everyone can see. I am not making this up. Essentially, they're going to shut off your eyes and ears and all of that. This would mean that by tapping directly into the part of the brain responsible for visual and audio or sensory feedback, a user's experience would be much improved. It'd be better than anything in real life. With BCIs, brain chip interfaces, fairly quickly we'll be able to create experiences that are superior to reality, but that's not where it gets weird. Where it gets weird is that who you are becomes editable through the brain chip interface. The idea of editing emotions or thoughts through brain chip interface is not a new one and has previously been floated by Elon Musk's neural technology startup Neuralink. Neuralink demonstrated a working BCI device last year, which it had implanted in a pig's brain in order to monitor signatures and activities. We saw the monkeys, playing Pong now and all this other stuff. Here's one. During the presentation last August, Musk said the chip would be used to help solve brain and spine problems, but could ultimately be used for a range of applications, including such as summoning a self-driving Tesla telepathically. You could solve blindness. You could solve paralysis. You could solve hearing, he said. In the future, you'll be able to save, replay memories. Ultimately, you could download them into your new body and robot body if you so choose. Valve is yet to announce any details about when a working device might be made commercially available, bro.
That is, it's wild. And the one thing that really sticks with me right before we jump to Ronald, who we have on hold, the one thing that sticks with me is they say that they can edit your thoughts and memories, or your thoughts and your emotions. So imagine, say, that you have this, you're like, I don't want to be plugged into this metaverse anymore. And then they just edit your memory out. Yes, you do.
You love the metaverse. You love the metaverse. Lewis, thanks for calling in. We're going to our next caller, Ronald from Minneapolis. Welcome to the show. We can get you on here. We got a few minutes left. How you doing, Ronald? Ronald from Minnesota. What do you got for us? Are you getting the robot love? Robot love.
I am not. Kriston and Don, how you guys doing? Hey, what do you think about, like when we were locked down for 2 years, we couldn't go anywhere. Oh, only drive if we need to go to get medication or whatever. And now all of a sudden, of course, we got all this stuff delivered, food delivery, DoorDash, everything like that. And you can literally survive right at home. You don't have to go anywhere. How about that?
Where the robots bring you everything and you could be a giant fat blob that just gets bigger and bigger as the robots feed you. And the minute you leave your house, there'll be alarms that go off. They're like, your ring doorbell will go along, RoboCop will come in.
You get a ticket in your mail because you were out driving, at a certain time, You didn't have
on your mailbox. You went beyond your mailbox.
Yeah, and it almost seems like that's exactly what they're sort of preconditioning us for, is this sort of lockdown culture, this this prison planet, so to speak, to steal a term from Paul Joseph Watson. And they've sort of been conditioning us for this for a really long time. And the lockdown manuals, or not the manuals, but the lockdown plans for like Event 201, they were all based in the lockstep documents from the Rockefeller Institute from 2010, how to create a global police state out of a pandemic, either a real one or a fake one. So it seems like it's all right, part and parcel with it. This great reset agenda that they've been rolling out, which is essentially just, a new name for the New World Order, just like they changed Agenda 21 to Agenda 2030, and, new name, same old bullshit.
Yeah. Not to get political, but here's a thought, they granted 100,000 refugees to become, or to be here in the United States. Not sure what that means exactly, except it sounds like he's going to have 100,000 extra votes. For that party wrong. Just
we got to make up for the fraud, because there was no fraud, but now we got to get the numbers over to verify that there's no fraud.
Sorry about that, guy. I just had to leave that note there, and just think about that one. All right.
It's America. We do what we want. We say who's president. Or like, yeah, Joe Biden. Now
Thank you very much. You guys have a great weekend, all right? All right.
You too, Ron.
Ron, awesome to hear from you. Great callers today. Luis, Ron, sorry we couldn't get to more. You guys want to call in, 1-855-472-5043 is the number. We'll be back next week. We're going to have a lot of great guests again next week. Make sure you guys are tuning in. We're going to be solid unless there's breaking news that pulls us away from the news line. And there's a bunch of stories we didn't get to today. Meet LEQ, the robot who wants to keep grandma company. Because, grandma's lonely. She's going to love robot. Alphabet tries to salvage its smart city plans in Toronto. We got in Nevada desert, a technology firm aims to be a government, and they're going to have a smart city run by robots. Chinese AI city will run and know what you drink before you walk in the store, what you want to buy before you walk in the store. It'll be ready for you. Russian scientists are working to produce hypoallergenic milk after cloning a cow and editing her genes to remove protein that causes lactose intolerance. Jingle hell. My son's Christmas was ruined after he's allergic to Facebook virtual reality goggles. UFO analysis and a whole bunch more that are in the news. Couples say ghost typed a message on her 80s computer to accuse them of stealing his house. Sounds like somebody hacked your computer, bro. They have a mid-80s. What is this? This is an old school. The only people that use these old computers are like the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Privacy and you don't believe me. They use typewriters probably now more than ever.
Yeah.
Like the only way we can have privacy is typewriters. Unknown symbols written by the lost painted people of Scotland are unearthed.
Oh, that's dope.
That's dope. That's in Live Science here. We'll put that on the screen for just a second as we have a minute left. And let's see. We got odd radio circles could come from giant black holes. New study says 8 twisted Titanic myths, and they say they're debunked, but they're not debunked. 2 of them that are spot on, that I agree with, that were part of it. The myth JP Morgan plotted the sinking of the Titanic, and number was at 8. Number 8 was the Titanic never actually sank. It was the Olympic, because they painted it as a Titanic because they were like in the hole and they needed the insurance money, which was they got $7.5 million for the Titanic. And they didn't know the difference because they look very similar. And we don't know until we pull up the Titanic. And I wonder if that will be true. We'll pull up the blueprint and it was real. Technology of the future could turn radio waves into electricity. And last but not least, for your wild and wacky news, our universe may have a twin that runs backwards in time, where people start out old and get young, I guess. I don't know how that would work, but that would be interesting. That and a whole bunch more. Thank you guys for tuning into our broadcast, our wild broadcast on KGRA DB today on Band.video. We'll see you guys next week on the Rundown Live. This is Kristan T. Harris, Don Vi Jr. checking out for the weekend.